Today, we're going to continue our basic checkmate series, this time with the king and the rook. It's a super important one to know because rooks tend to survive a long time and are often the last major piece standing at the end of the game. This endgame is going to be very similar to the king and queen mate. In fact, you may want to go review that video before even trying to watch this one. But in any case, you're here and it's time to learn. The reason I said it's similar to the king and queen mate is because the first step is to make a box or a fence around the king. So I'm going to move my rook up to the square h4. And if I draw arrows on the lines the rook controls, and I include the edges of the chessboard, the black king is stuck inside this box for the rest of the game. Let's have the king travel toward the rook. Now there's one big difference between this checkmate and the king and the queen mate. Rooks can't move diagonal. I know that gets a big duh, FunMasterMike, I know that. The problem though is the king can actually come over here and attack your rook. Oh no! The queen cannot be attacked, but the rook can. So after making your box, the next thing I want you to do is connect your king and your rook. So have your king come over here to help out the rook. So if he attacks you, you don't have to move your rook backward. You can move your king to the square g3 and defend the rook. Okay, black has to give way now. He has to go backward or sideways. Let's have him go sideways. Here is the 1-2 punch that I want you to think about for this entire endgame. If you have a way to make the box smaller with the rook, do it. And if you don't have a way, move your king. So it's just that simple, chess kids. Try to make the box smaller. If you can't, move your king. We're going to be repeating this over and over. Here, we can make the box smaller by moving our rook sideways to g4. It's just a little bit tinier. If the black king moves, can we make the box smaller again? Well, we sure can. The rook can go to the square f4. The king and rook are working great together, and the black king is slowly being driven toward this corner. By the way, let me pause here and say, this is not the only king and rook technique, but after many years of chess teaching, I have found it to be the easiest. Let's have black's king go backward this time. Can we make the box smaller? Well, this time we can't. If we travel forward with our rook, we're just going to get captured. Also, if we travel sideways, although it's check, the king can move here, and now our box is actually empty. You can see there's no black king inside. We may have made a different box, but when you're first learning this endgame, I am not going to advise you to be switching boxes, okay? So, we cannot make the box smaller. Let's move the king. My advice, just get the king as close as you can. I think g4 is a little closer than f3. Let's go to the square g4. If the black king moves here, we cannot make the box smaller. If we go there with our rook, we lose it. And if we go there to give check, the king can hop down the board and get out of the box. As I think you're noticing, chess kids, you do not want to put black's king in check at any point in this process, okay? So let's move our king closer. If black's king gives way, can we make the box smaller? Yep, we sure can. Rook to f5. And if he goes backward, we can do it again. Rook to f6. Let's have him go sideways. There is no way to make the box smaller. So we move the king. Very simple process. The king moves sideways. Can we make the box smaller? Nope. Those moves are both check. In fact, the first one loses the rook. So they can't be right, unless you don't trust FunMasterMike, but I hope you do. So, the king travels closer again. When black's king moves sideways, the box is getting smaller. It's a very slow process, but you know, we have this saying, slow is steady and steady is fast. Try to figure that one out. Okay, we're making the box smaller. Black's king's running away. There's no way to make the box smaller here. By the way, you're probably also realizing you don't really want your king and your rook separated very often. You want them together. So, our king gets closer. If black's king goes sideways, we get closer. If black's king goes sideways, we make the box a little bit smaller. If he goes here, smaller again. He touches the corner. Is there any way to make it smaller? Not quite. We have to move our king closer. When he goes here, I know it's tempting to give check, but if you do, he will run away. We don't want that. So, let's move our king once again. When the black king touches the corner, now it's time for a checkmate. Pause your videos and figure out which rook move is going to deliver the finishing blow. Well, it's not rook b8 because the king can travel down the board. It's the move rook to a6, and we finally have our checkmate. Boys and girls, you need to practice this checkmate 100 or 200 times to make absolute sure you've got it down pat. There's one last thing though. If you follow my advice perfectly, you might actually get in this chess position, and it might be white's move. This is kind of tricky because if you follow my advice and you try to make the box smaller, well, that's not going to work. If you give check, he'll run away. But if you move your king, you'd have to go down here, and the black king would travel back. And you don't want to play rook to b7. That would actually be a stalemate. And if you move your king back and the black king goes here, we're not getting anywhere. We need a special move in this position. It's called a waiting move. A waiting move is a chess move that does nothing. It just passes the turn to black. The best waiting move is to move your rook sideways. For instance, a square like c6. Now I know it looks like we made the box bigger, but we didn't, because black's king still has to go to the corner, and we can play our favorite checkmate. In fact, chess kids love when I point out that there are several other waiting moves. Any rook move to these squares also works. Let's say you play rook to h6. It looks crazy, but it's not. It's genius. The black king has to go to the corner, and then our rook travels all the way back. So don't forget about the idea of waiting move. Sometimes it happens at the very final position where you just need that black king to go to the corner. Hope you learned the king and rook mate. It's an important one. Practice, practice, practice. If you do it once, do it 100 more times, then you're a master of the mate.